Is there anybody in the chat room that I need to worry about joining?
Not at the moment.
Not yet.
Okay.
But I just now took the stream live.
Okay. Connect now.
Not yet.
But I just now took the stream live.
Okay.
All right. I'm satisfied with that.
Yay, satisfaction.
I heard both of you speak. That's good enough. See, I do have a voicemail I have to play, so I'll have to keep that up. Yeah. All right. Commence recording.
Rolling.
Vocal recording engaged. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 283. We're all still here. Recorded April 30th, 2017, and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the only show on the internet where geeks rant. I'm your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me against all odds are our two stalwart co-hosts, Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson, and Miles, the Oxygenaire Wakeham. Hello, gentlemen. Hello? Is this thing on? Do I have power?
Oh man, it's windy here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Seth has both internet and air conditioning, so he's not roughing it too much.
Well, here I do, not
Right,
at my house.
not at home.
So,
So we'll talk about that a little bit, but April 30th, it seems like just a month ago it was April 1st. It's amazing how fast time flies. Tonight, we actually were doing some recording last night, some pre-recording for to fill in for a gap that is coming up in the near future. And Seth told us, hey, there's some storms coming in. I might go away. And a few minutes later, he went away. And then as we found out, those storms were two F3 tornadoes that hit within about 10 miles of each other. Big booms. And so Seth was offline a little bit, but we were texting, so I at least knew he wasn't dead. I kept checking in on him like every hour. You still there? You still alive? You still breathing? So that inspired us to do a show themed on disaster recovery and emergency preparedness. We've talked about digital backups all the time and digital disaster recovery, but what about your life? So I posted some notes and sent out to the guys, and turns out we've got two incredibly paranoid preppers here. So sit back and prepare for a 3-hour mini-series event because we've got a lot to talk about.
well, yeah, I mean, we'll get into this, but when you're literally the last pole on the line from the electric company, you know you're either going to buy a generator or you're just going to know the power's going to go out occasionally and it'll be a while before it gets back. So we're literally the last pole.
I just live in the middle of The Walking Dead.
I was very fortunate in Texas to live less than a quarter mile from the power distribution substation for that part of town. So we were the last to go down and the first to come up, and it was awesome. But not everybody gets that. So but before we go there, I have a couple of things I want to talk about. Just this afternoon, I watched the movie Sully, Tom Hanks' movie about, actually Clint Eastwood movie starring Tom Hanks, about the pilot, Chelsea Solid, I can't remember his name, who landed the plane on the Hudson a few years ago. I'm sure you remember that story. And it was a really fascinating story. I have a feeling that it was a case of let's not let facts get in the way of a good story several times. But it was really a much better story than I expected. It was very, very well done in terms of the craft of movie making, the sound and the editing. Of course, Tom Hanks is just stellar at everything he does, and I just really enjoyed it. So I thought I'd let you know. Sully, well worth the watch. Available on Netflix now.
Did they drag anybody off? Was there anybody with footage just getting dragged off, some doctor or something?
No.
No, that wasn't a United flight, I don't think.
Oh.
So, but no, I saw it while it was in the theaters. I was actually in Delaware at the time. And it was, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought Aaron Eckhart did a fabulous job as a co-star. He's becoming one of my favorite actors. Yeah, great movie. Really, it's one of those, it's like, okay, he landed on the Hudson, yay. But no, they took that one event and made a compelling, interesting movie out of it. So I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, and there's a couple of angles you could go there. The making of the man or the witch hunt. And they avoided all the cliches, and I really appreciated that.
I just will not watch a movie about airplane disasters because I fly too much, and I just can't. I just can't do it. I can't put myself in. Like, I know I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. with planes going down, and that's going to. And I know 3 hours later I've got to go to the airport and catch a flight, and I've got to live with that. So no, I can't do it.
Okay.
So yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, only one minor injury. So he landed a plane in the Hudson, and there's going to be a scar. That was what they said on this one patient. A patient who was in the hospital. And the other one I watched. It's been out for a while. I watched it a while ago, and I can't believe I haven't mentioned it before. I looked through the notes, and it's not there. Kubo and the Two Strings. It's an animated movie. Just really, again, good storytelling, great voice characters, good animation, it's a kid flick, but one that parents are going to enjoy. So I can highly recommend Kubo and the Two Strings, and we've watched it several times since it came out on Netflix a couple of months ago, and I was kind of surprised I hadn't mentioned anything about it. Either of you guys seen that one?
No.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's very stylistic animation, in the same way that sort of Kung Fu Panda works on multiple levels. This is more, I started to say more adult than Kung Fu Panda, but no, there's fart humor in there too. It really works on all levels. It's just, I really enjoyed it. And that's it.
Yeah, well,
so, Seth,
I'm a fan of anime anyway, so
right.
I'm sure I will enjoy it when I get around to seeing it.
This is it follows the Japanese tradition of talking about outlandish things as if they were commonplace. The whole thing is done in the style of like papercraft, but it's because the one of the main characters has magical power over paper. So the style mimics the story, which references the style. It's meta like that.
Anime is really good about doing stuff like that. I mean, people who think anime is just cartoon for kids, I mean, yes, a lot of it is, but it is well done storytelling. And in a lot of ways, it's easier to tell an animated story than it is because, you don't have high price actors and all these digital special effects. And that kind of gives them a freedom. But then there are people who are very famous, like you're listening to this anime and go, wait a minute, I recognize that voice. And so IMDb, oh, he was on this one too. And so, good. I love me a good anime.
So Seth, other than chasing, or I should say not chasing storms, but running from storms, the American jurisprudence system must go on.
Yes, I found out I got it, and I don't know, it's one of those things you got to call the night before, and so tomorrow I am scheduled for jury duty, but with all of the stuff that Canton itself wasn't hit by a tornado, but so much of the just outside the city limits was, I might not have to go, but I will. I may or may not have jury duty tomorrow, and I want to be on a jury. I have never been selected. It's my goal in life. It's on my bucket list. Serve on an actual jury. So I just think it would be cool to do at least once.
I've never served on a jury either. I was summoned once for a local municipal court for the city. It wasn't state or anything, and I didn't go. And I saw a guy at church, and he said, "Hey, what was the deal? You weren't there Friday." I said, "What do you know?" He said, "Jury duty." No, that's not until last Friday. Oh my gosh. And so I went to the judge the very next Monday morning. I skipped work and like as soon as the door opened, I threw myself on the mercy of the court. I said, I know this is like, you could put me under the jail for this. And I said, I just forgot. I got no other excuse than I forgot. And he looked at me and said, boy, that's going to be an expensive forget. the fine was
They
significant.
send out the notices to me at least once a year. And every time I get them, I have to say, I run a business. I can't afford to take the time off, blah, blah, blah. It will have financial impact. And they go, yeah, all right, go, next. And they just move on. But they just keep repeating the process over and over again. So I guess at some point they'll get the memo. But at this point, they keep sending out the notices and I keep saying I can't do it. And they keep going, okay. And when we move forward from there.
Yeah, with my luck, the one time I get called for jury duty, it's going to be a sequestration for 6 months. That's just kind of the way my life rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I say, that's a goal of mine, is to do that. And so, I would like to do it at least once. So,
and just to keep up the media thing, if your paranoia wasn't high enough, Miles has a new History Channel show for you.
Oh yeah, you guys! This is a Dallas thing. It's JFK. Okay, how many times that conspiracy theory been done to death? Well, the guys who did the Hunting Hitler show, that I think I mentioned a while back, which was actually pretty cool. Now they've got one called Tracking Oswald. So who knows where this is going to end up? But I watched the first episode. There's just one out, and it's actually really well put together. I mean, they've done a really nice job from a TV production standpoint. And it's the same people. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like an 15-year CIA operative who goes in there to try to trace the movements of Oswald before, during, and after the whole Kennedy assassination thing. It's very interesting. It started off tracing him into Mexico. And one of the things that's kind of cool is you get a sense of how the CIA work, or how they did in the 60s. How they do covert meetings and surveillance and all these. They had all these buildings around the Russian embassy in Mexico City that were, I can't remember what they call them. They're like special listening posts, and they're secured rooms that they bought the building next door or something, and then installed this thing in it. And they're all over the place. And I mean, man, when you think about what they did in the 60s, it makes our surveillance these days look so covert compared to what they were doing back then. Day in the life of a spy. What do you do?
I'm actually in favor of overt spying, frankly, especially if you're talking about on your own citizens rather than covert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this stuff is right out of a Tom Clancy novel, though. It's a lot of fun if you're into that sort of thing.
Right. And we'll just move on quickly here to a couple of bits of listener feedback. Dave offers some comments on episode 281. He said, I'm not so sure about the value of computer-generated art, but if it does happen convincingly, it'll still be human-generated because it's the humans who wrote the programs. The main thing I felt compelled to write to you was to chip in with my version of what compels people to make the choices they do. Mark said that people always do what they think is right at the time. Unless you're willing to redefine what right is, I'd say there's a better way to put it. People always do what they desire to do at the time. We all have a myriad of thoughts, emotions, opinions, desires, and they all float around our minds grappling for supremacy. And whatever desire wins at the moment of choice is what makes the decision. In the free will debate, this is the compatibilist viewpoint, as opposed to the incorrect libertarian viewpoint, which says any choice can be made. I believe that many people make choices they know are not right. Eating that fourth piece of lasagna was your example, I think. But if the desire to eat is stronger than the desire to make the wise, healthy choice and deny the appetite, then you yield personal sovereignty and make the choice even though you know it's not right. I think what you're referring to is our profound ability to convince ourselves that it's okay this time by rationalizing an otherwise obviously wrong choice. But we really do know, unless our conscience is totally seared, that we're choosing a wrong path. While it's possible that any of the desires you possess might win, it's certainly not possible to choose something you don't desire in some way, unless your desire is attempting to do something random, but then that's still something you desire. With this model, it brings up the idea that it matters what thoughts we allow ourselves to entertain. Someone famous wrote something like, "It's not your fault if a bird lands on your head. It is your fault if he builds a nest there." Anyway, if this is what your show made me think of, careful, you have to change your name again to Armchair Philosopher Rant. Any thoughts on that, guys? Determinism versus free will?
Well, you went right over my head.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot. I like a lot of what he says there. I think we would share a lot in common. You know, we might not walk the same path, but we would be headed in the same direction. So,
I
like the name though, Armchair Philosopher Rant. That has legs.
I've stated what I think there in the show. I won't reiterate it, but I do think that right. I didn't choose the word right accidentally. It goes beyond a desire. You could go, look back at the people at Nuremberg to pull up a trite example. They believed it was right to torture Jews and murder them. It wasn't just something they desired to do. In fact, most of them would say they didn't desire to do it, but they did it because they believed it was right. Nobody really believed it was right. They just convinced themselves that it was. So I choose that word not lightly. So that's all I have to say about that. And the next one, we have an anonymous listener, only because he didn't say who he was, left us a voicemail about looking for government to solve problems.